Greetings everyone to this new class on the Siddhi Asti MajjA. Pay attention inside. Get ready for the class. We will be meditative. While the translator is set up, I will comment on the news of the week. So I know many of you have been struck by emotions at the declaration of a war. I still won't do anything about it or teach something about it. I prepared my class for Asti MajjA, and I hope this will help you deal with whatever situation you're going through. Asti MajjA in the dictionary means bone marrow. Of course, the Siddhi is not only about your bone marrow. We'll philosophize. I hope my translators are ready. In Sanskrit, there are maybe 20 different words for bone. Bone in the body. Maybe it's 12, but it's a lot. There's a big list. When it concerns your bone marrow, the word bone is asti. A-S-T-H-I. Asti. Okay? That comes from the bijas as and ti. T-H-I is a T with some exhale. T instead of T. 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 Okay? So it's just a bit of exhale, but not exaggerated. T is a structure that is planned and expressed. So architecture, a blueprint, okay, structure. As empowers or gives strength, okay, as. So asti is what provides strong structures. Asti became the word for bone. Okay. When I explain a word like this, you don't need to remember the details. It's not required. But a lot of my students have studied the language of the soul, the phonetics of experience, and you want to understand the Siddhis when we do it. So that's why I explain it. But it's not required to remember by heart or by mind everything. So asti is bone in the dictionary, but the bija is the empowerment of structures. Okay? Majja is marrow. Okay? So the spongy stuff inside your bone. Majja, the Siddhi, the bijas, is the bija ma and the bija ja. And there's two J there, M-A-J-J-A. And the final A is a strong A. Usually in Sanskrit, when there's an A at the end of a word, you almost mute it, like nam, anim, pran. In the case of Majja, it's a strong A, so you say Majja. Okay? And we want to hear it correctly. So ma is substance, and ja is understanding or knowledge. Okay? Or to get it. So Majja is the substance of understanding. What the hell is that? It is your potentials. What are potentials? Well, I give classes on YouTube about it. I give a lot of classes on potentials. But let's summarize. When you have an emotion, there's an emotion that rises. It's like not a ball, it's fluid. That emotion was already inside you, flowing, okay? So if you hear a joke, you start to laugh. Sometimes it's a mind reaction, you just laugh at the joke. Sometimes something rises inside and causes you to laugh, okay? That's a potential. It's a mass of consciousness and knowledge that rises and enforces its emotion on you. That is a potential, okay? And we have tons of potential inside, dormant and silent. And if you hear a bad comment, an anger rises. If you hear a good comment, joy rises, okay? So potentials are the stuff inside you that are dormant but can be awakened by any stimuli, okay? But your potentials are always there, and they're, even when dormant, they're active. They have an influence on you, okay? So it's important to keep in mind that inside you have a lot of different potentials. These potentials are your conditioning, okay? They are your beliefs, your traumas. It's any mass of energy, consciousness, knowledge inside you, sometimes repressed, sometimes aware, okay? So maja is those potentials, okay? It's a Sanskrit word for these potentials, okay? So it's the substance of knowledge, okay? So awareness, consciousness, knowledge, agglomerated together, okay, as a substance. It became the word marrow in the Sanskrit dictionary because it's the spongy stuff inside your bones, okay? Now let's speak about bone marrow and its utility in the physical plane. When you look at your body, you see the skin. Now you know the skin is a layer over your muscles, your flesh, your fat, and your bones. So you're led to believe that the thing inside you is your bones, or inside your limbs are your bones. That's the thing in the center. But in the center of your bones, there's something even deeper, the bone marrow, okay? So the bones keep your body structured, allows you to stand up, makes it easier to move, okay? Creatures without bones sometimes are pretty slow, okay? So your body is held by bones, and the stronger your bone marrow, the stronger are your bones, but also so many things in your system. The bone marrow inside your bones actually affects mostly your blood. This is where most of your blood cells are created. And it will create red blood cells that carry the resources in your body. And your bone marrow will also create white cells of different type, the lymphocytes, type T, type B, macrophage, and many of those white cells. And these white cells, they eliminate the invaders, the germs, the virus, and whatever is not useful. It also clears the dead stuff, the dead cells from your body, okay? So the bone marrow is not only about the health of your bones. It has an effect on it, but it's mostly about the entire health of your body, okay? The fun side effect of asti majja is that your bones will be strong, but also that your immune system will be boosted, okay? But that's not why we learn the Siddhi. It is very useful, but that's not why we learn the Siddhi, okay? Let's do a parallel or transposition of everything we spoke of bone and bone marrow. let's transpose it on our emotional and mental plane. Okay? So Asti is your structures. A lot of these structures are very good. Okay? If you are a rigid person, your bones will take more shock and it will break easier. If you're a flexible person, your bones are still very hard, but your muscles and your tendons around the bones are flexible. They allow the repartition of stress, which will give a longer life to your bones and to you. Let's speak of flexibility a moment, okay? A bamboo is flexible, okay, because the bamboo is made of fibers. Okay. A muscle can be flexible because a muscle is made of fibers. Your bones are not flexible because they are not made of fibers. They are made in alveolic patterns, okay, organized structures that are not fibers. They're more like, complex alveolic type structures. And this is what makes the bones so rigid. Now, you want your bones to be rigid. You don't want flexible bones. That's osteoporosis. You don't want that because it could break. You want very rigid bones, but the articulations and the muscles and the tendons to be flexible. Okay? Let's transpose this to the mind. Strong bones in the mind is a strong structure. It's discipline, moral strength, principles, but flexible. I tried to find an example. I found it hard to find good examples. So let's give bad examples. To know the rules of football, okay, European original soccer, that is called football, not the American football. But it works for football in any place anyway. So the rules of your sport. The structure is how the sport works, and everyone agrees. And so that the sport can be played, the rules has to be fixed and immutable. That is strong bones. But if you start to battle, to react, to be depressed because your team lost, then you're too rigid. It's not about the bones of the games, it's about the experience of the game around it that is too stuck. It has to be this and that way. Okay? That's a mild example. Let's take another bad example, but it's some of the best I've found so far. When you cook a steak, the knowledge on applying fire on steak to cook it, that's a rigid bone. That you need to know the rules of cooking as best you can. But if the steak is not cooked exactly how you want it, or if you see someone cook a steak too much and you become emotional about it. Now, I've seen people react aggressively because I put ketchup on my steak like a good North American, and they freak out. Who is losing their sense of peace? Because the way I eat my steak. And then you want to ascend or be enlightened, and someone's eating habit deprive you of your sense of peace, which is kind of funny. You see how superficial it can be. So the knowledge of cooking is one thing, but then your cultural conditioning, what will cause you to be so rigid as a person, that's not your bones. It's all the tendons around them, okay? So your conditioning and your beliefs is what makes you a rigid or flexible person. But if you want to cook, you'll need to apply fire to to your food, your meat or your vegetables or whatever. Okay, so that's a way of thinking. There's a person I love very much that enjoys pizza, and at first I believed her to be so on, like a pizza is exactly this, and that. But then she was served something different than pizza. It was pizza, but North American pizza. He says, okay, it's not a pizza, but it's like a focaccia with stuff on it. So I like it. It was funny because the rigidity of what can be called pizza is extremely fixed. Specific pasta, specific width, specific everything. But she just changed the name so she could still enjoy it. So there's a form of flexibility. But she can't call it pizza. I mean, that's not pizza. That's a different, focaccia. That's a pasta. That's a paste covered with stuff. Can't call it pizza. I mean, okay. So some flexibility, some rigidity, because it doesn't matter if someone calls it pizza. It's pizza, even if it's not yours. So these are examples that are very superficial and funny about the structure of your bones. Your bones has to be hard to keep you alive, but everything around it has to be flexible. Okay? Now, something inside the bone also has to be flexible and malleable. There was a medical observation that when your bone marrow is too fat, there's too much fat in it, the doctors used to say, oh, your bone marrow is too fat. So that will cause this or that sickness. It could cause I think it was cause a certain form of cancer, a certain form of diabetes, or did I get my facts wrong? It caused problem in the body, okay? But then later they realized that having a fat bone marrow actually prevents other kind of cancer. Yeah, I remember now. It helps prevent diabetes, and so fat bone marrow allows you to modulate sugar, modulate the insulin much better. Okay, so anyway, first medical observations 20, 30, 50 years ago, fat bone marrow was considered bad. And today, it's considered good. Okay, so having a balanced bone marrow is the ideal. Not enough fat, you'll have trouble with sugar, carbohydrates, you'll gain weight much faster. Having a balanced bone marrow will help you manage every little aspect in your health. Okay? Now, let's transpose this to the mind. If you have a lot of knowledge, of course, if you're super filled with like an encyclopedia, of course, you'll be able to deal with many situations, but there's a downside. You become arrogant, know it all, but I know this. And it will prevent you from learning other new things. But I already know this, so then you're close to the advancement, the new knowledge. The same way that these doctors in the past were certain of one reality about bone marrow, and it took a lot of studies to deny it and say, actually, it's not bad to have fat in your bone marrow. It's actually a good thing. Okay? Basically, it's all about exercise and burn your fat as you get it, like anything else. Okay? So having a lot of maja, having a lot of potentials is not bad. But you see, if you don't exercise, if you don't do personal growth, all of these potentials will take over you and you'll become rigid. And you'll have a low immune system. What does it mean, the immune system in the mind? It is your ability to deal with negativity. And this is why we study and practice Asti Majja this week. It is so that you'll have a good mental bone marrow, or actually good mind potential at emotional and the mental level, good potentials, and the ability to eliminate negativity. Okay? Now, that has an effect on depression. If the physical marrow helps you deal with carbohydrates and sugar and manage insulin, that means in the mind, it helps you manage with propaganda. Okay, carbohydrates is the entertainment for your mind. The same way sugar is pleasant in the body and the mouth. All the video games and the music and the theatricals that you see in life, they can saturate your mind. A good asti maja will help you manage the conditioning you get from video games, music, news. So when you hear there's a new COVID mutation or a war that came, it doesn't mean you won't care. No, I care about what's going on with the war. I'm actually affected. It doesn't touch me directly, but as a human that cares for all humanity, I'm disappointed. However, it doesn't take me down. You know, it doesn't depress me. It doesn't make me cry. I'm disappointed, but when sadness rose, I had to detach and see it's humans doing humans things. Okay, so asti maja will keep a healthy maja, so healthy marrow in your mind, healthy potentials inside your structures, so that you can have very strong mind structures, the rules on how things have to be done, the mechanics, understand chemistry and physics, understand how to work with tools, the knowledge on how to live as a human, but also be flexible on it has a lot of ways to apply. You can always change your point of view about things, you know. So a balance between strong bones, but very flexible envelope around it. Okay, so you won't get hurt. You won't become stubborn. And asti maja, the marrow inside, will help you manage with any negativity that comes to you. Cool? So the negative thoughts, and the negative thoughts you can have in your mind. Okay? I mean, you still have personal growth to do if you hate yourself. But when you're in a crisis of hate, it emanates a taint. Okay? If you accumulate too much, it becomes a succubus, and you don't want that. It emanates a taint. Usually it just stays a taint, but it's the miasma in your body that you feel heavy from hating yourself. Okay? The hate is inside, and you feel it. The miasma is the resulting vibration that accumulates on your body, physical, emotional, and mental. Okay? A good asti maja will help you eliminate that miasma, the negative output from that. Okay? Someone who has a lot of negative energy, you can sometimes feel it when they come close to you. Okay? So good asti maja eliminates that negativity around you. It collaborates with the elements, okay, the 5 basic elements, Prithvi, Tejas, Akasha, Apsa, and Vayu. It collaborates with the elements the same way your bone marrow uses the chemicals in your body to regenerate itself and to produce the white cells that will eliminate the invaders and the negative energy. Right? I hope it was entertaining to do parallels between the physical bone marrow and the asti maja in the mind. Okay? Asti maja is to use the good resources you have. So the personal growth and the spiritual practice, the elements, to use your resources to generate a positive field inside you and around you. And it's not just a positive field, it's a field that destroys and digests negativity to eliminate it. Okay? Then the trash goes into your virtual or mystical kidneys and it just flows back in the environment. Okay? Asti maja. Asti maja. Strong bones, strong bone marrow. Healthy and balanced bone marrow with just the amount of fat. And inside, good structures, good knowledge, discipline, moral strength. But flexible, so your strength does not become a stubbornness that will break you. Stubborn people tend to be more angry. You'll look at this. Asti maja generates a type of energy that is not only positive, but it is capable of destroying the negative and keep your mind clean and straight. It is very interesting because this positivity that we cultivate inside prevents negative conditioning from the outside to reach you. Of course, there's always a little. But this morning I heard a very interesting comment exactly about that. It's like, wow, I can use it in class. Playing violent video games. When I have a period of break, which is what I have now, I play 12 hours of video games per day. Okay. Some of these video games are aggressive, violent. And I heard that spending too much time in this will just condition me negatively. So, well, I didn't answer because I started by wanting to accept. When I hear a comment, I first want to say, hey, that's true, because it's mechanical. If I'm exposed to something, regardless of how pure my mind is, I will get the effect of it. Okay, it's normal. But then I realized, okay, so it's part of my class of Asti Maja, where we have so much virtue inside. We've cultivated ourselves, done personal growth, and we have defeated the vicious nature of greed, hatred, jealousy, envy. Sometimes laziness, sometimes not. Because when I work a lot. When I don't work, I'm really lazy. But it goes up and down, so I guess I'm balanced. So Asti Maja, this positivity in my mind, removes the negative conditioning that all these video games can have on me. But at one point, after 2-3 weeks of this regime, 12 hours a day, every single day, except 1 day per week I would take off. At one point it reaches me and I see that. And then I intentionally let go of video games, start to do something else. Okay? So it's a balance. Okay? So when I hear bad news of what happens in this country or that country, the COVID events, the stuff that happens to my close loved ones, all this positivity in my mind that I've cultivated for years, it eliminates a lot of the negative reactions from it. Okay, so I thought it was useful to teach about this phenomena and the Siddhi to produce that positivity field that actually eliminates negativity by defeating it. Okay, so there is something in your system, the white cells, that will hunt and kill the negative stuff, the bad stuff, okay? It's part of nature, so it's a good thing. Okay? If it hurts your feelings when a lion kills a zebra, okay? When you see in the jungle a lion kills a zebra and it hurts your feelings, Maybe there's a part of you that does not accept nature. I'm not talking about a war between humans. No, not at all. I'm talking about when it's natural, when nature feeds, when nature does something, okay? So if you have a difficulty, a sadness, or you feel disgusted by something in nature, maybe there's something inside you that will not go and attack nature when it comes, okay? So that can affect the strength of your white cells, because you have a fear of hurting in nature, like when something in nature hurts something else, okay? That will affect your white cells and its power, okay? So it's good to do integration and accept nature is what it is. Nature is what it does, okay? And nature finds a way to keep balance. So I never wish for any zebra to die, but I also never wish for any lion to die. And a lion lives only when a zebra is eaten. So at one point, something dies. Okay? Accept this phenomenon in nature. And your white cells will say, okay, sometimes you preserve, sometimes you kill. You just need to know what to kill to preserve the main entity healthy. Okay? And that acceptance of nature will give you good white cells, right? Of all types. It's the same for the mind. Asti Maja is a Siddhi that will produce this powerful white cell in your mind, the white cell army in your mind that will be good potentials. I say, if negativity comes, I don't need this kind of negativity. I don't need it. And it won't be a denial reaction. It will be, it's okay, but I don't need to dramatize. Okay? I don't need to be a victim. I don't need to attract attention with this sadness. I can just deal with it. I don't need to feel aggressed by a bully. I can just focus on what is justice. Okay? Just go back to virtue in training. All right. That is Asti Maja. Let's take 2 minutes of practice. And now we do it for the mind and the body. When you practice the Siddhi, it does all planes at the same time. Okay? Asti Maja. Parenthesis. There's a H in the word. A-S-T-H-I. I was sometimes tempted to see Ashti because I see S-H. Just don't do that mistake. It is a different Siddhi, okay? So Asti. Asti Maja. Asti Maja. I'm so excited about it, I spoke too fast again. Sorry, translators. I'll do my best again. But I've repeated everything 2 times, like I usually do. So it helps the translation. Asti Maja. Very good, Raven. It's a good way to write it. Remember, the final A is a strong one. I like to put a big A at the end, but how Raven just wrote it is a good way for Romanized people. Asti Maja. Asti Maja. So it's not just positive thought. It is a destruction of negativity. It is to dare know that something dense will be eliminated. And I won't have an effort to do. It will happen naturally in my field of energy, which is my blood system. It is my energy field inside and outside, all around. It eliminates negativity. It does that by having an acceptance of nature, of taking care of what is good for me and just removing what is not good for me. Asti Maja. Asti Maja. Good, positive potentials inside me. Inside my bones, a balanced marrow that is just correctly fat, not too much. and sponges, smooth and spongy. Inside my structured knowledge, inside my knowledge is a soft and spongy potential. And all around my bones, I'm flexible with strong but relaxed tendons. Okay, tendons, tendencies. Okay, make the relation. Asti maja, good healthy bone marrow. The result is all this positivity and all this flexibility and the health that it brings in the mind and the body. Asti maja. Asti maja. Asti maja. Asti maja. Do not fall into judgment when you think about eliminating negativity. It's not a denial reaction. Fuck that guy, I hate him, like it has to go away. Or a denial, like, no, I don't need to see this. It's not a reaction. You'll feel inside a hardness, emotionally and mentally, if it's a denial, if it's your pride acting, or if it's an abandonment rising, causing you to react. Asti maja will see the negativity, but it will not want to play with it. It will not dramatize us off. It's okay, let this pass. Okay, let's see what we can do about it as a good human being. Invoke justice, pray for the well-being. Okay, so that aspect depends on your amount of personal growth, on how you can recognize a denial or an acceptance. But the result is to know that the negativity is eliminated. But for that, you need to have that positivity, not complete and perfect, but some positivity inside. Okay, so personal growth. Asti maja it is. Was a great little class. Cultivate your asti maja this week. And next week, I do not teach. Next week, we're off. Peace, guys.